done this.
And we're live, and you were talking. Hi, this is Melanie from Egypt. We are awful at starting these. Every time we start one of these, Rebecca's talking about something else, but it's so cool. And I thought I'd mute her, but I'm not that kind of person, so I didn't mute her. And she was quiet for like 5 good seconds. Anyway, Rebecca, do you want to introduce yourself, and then we'll let Suzanne and Apostos introduce themselves.
Sounds good. I'm Rebecca Hogue, and I'm coming to you live from Dallas, Texas at the ET4 Online Unconference, the end of the conference. And we're getting some sound checks in the background, and hopefully we will be visited shortly by Gardner Campbell, who was the keynote speaker this morning. Over to one of you virtual people.
Sure, I can start. Hi everyone, my name is Suzanne, and I'm a virtual participant. I'm participating from the UK. So I'm studying learning technologies at the University of Minnesota, and I'm really excited to be with you all.
And hello everyone, my name is Apostolos Koutropoulos, but everybody calls me AK. I am from the University of Massachusetts in Boston, and I guess today I'll introduce myself as an educational troublemaker.
What's the latest trouble you've been in, Apostolos?
Oh, too many things involving MOOCs, you know.
That's really funny. So you guys, how's the online conference been? How's the virtual participation been this time around? Anything special that you want to share with everybody else?
Like I said before, in our previous hangout, I really enjoy participating in this conference virtually. It worked well for me, and I appreciate all the efforts. So thank you, Maha and Rebecca. Yeah, it's been great so far. It will be sad, when it's over, and well, the Twitter will go quiet, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you can still watch the recordings, but it's not the same as when you're live and other people are watching at the same time.
Exactly.
But you know what we could do? We could sort of, this is actually a good idea. We could agree once a month to decide to all watch a particular thing at the same time and do you know how Laura Gogia has this Twitter journal club? We could have a Twitter conference club. Where we meet once a month to live tweet about a particular talk, and we all decide to listen to it at the same time, and it would be just like being in the conference. And actually watching 1 or 2 sessions a day is pretty much all I can really focus on. If I do more than that, I'm really not focusing anyway, and multitasking and everything. And Suzanne and I both have young kids, so it's very difficult to find a lot of time for this. But once a month for one session might be a good idea. What do you think, AK?
Brilliant idea.
I think that's a good idea. I think I've seen more people on Twitter this year compared to previous years live tweeting during the events, which is great. And in previous years, I have gone back the week after the conference and watched the presentations and tweeted, but it's sort of the epitome of the trope, this is what's happening now, this is what's happening now, and people would say, dude, DT4 online is over, what are you doing? So having some other troublemakers with me would definitely help.
So what's been very
and we don't have to focus on, go on. I was just going to say we don't have to focus on just this conference. Other conferences like OER 15, I think they've probably recorded a few of their keynotes. So it doesn't, but of course ET4 Online would like theirs to be first since we're doing it through them. But go ahead, Rebecca.
I was going to say one of the really interesting phenomena that has happened at this conference is that we're not passing out business cards, but we're connecting on Twitter. And much more so than any other conference I've ever been to. It's been very interesting. We sit around the table, what's your Twitter handle? And everyone starts following each other on Twitter. And we're connecting that way rather than collecting a whole bunch of business cards that you then don't look at again.
Do you know what's also really interesting, speaking of that Twitter aspect of it, is that you all know I was part of the TVSZ game, so it's a Twitter game, and we proposed both a workshop and a presentation because we weren't sure which one would get accepted, and they both got accepted. So the workshop was at the very beginning of the conference at 8:30 a.m., and the presentation was just finished a few minutes ago. And so somebody attended both, and they were like, TVSZ bookended my conference. But the thing is that it was it was on the whole conference. Everybody was on Twitter playing that game from that day up until it just ended earlier today. And so that was one way of engaging a lot of people on Twitter during the conference about something that's not really exactly related to the conference, because they were using the TVSZ hashtag, right? So if you weren't following that, you wouldn't notice it. But it was just a way to engage participants all the time in one thing, even though they were going to different sessions.
That's one reminds me of the ET4 buddy hashtag, because I noticed that you posted lots and lots of things, but I missed most of them because I wasn't following the hashtag. So if you're not following the hashtag, then you're missing so much of the fun and the conversation. So I guess how do you make everyone know about this? Like the thing you mentioned, I didn't know about it until today, I think, the TV stuff.
Yeah, I think I need a better Twitter client. Most of my tweets work fine when I'm doing it on the phone or on the iPad and I'm just sharing something, but for conferences like this, I need something that tracks multiple hashtags.
Is there anything available like that?
I have something called Metro Tweet, which works well for me, but they decided to discontinue it. So
okay. I'm just going to note it down.
I'm not deleting it because it works fine for me right now. But once this dies, because it eventually will, once Twitter changes their APIs, I need to find something that works.
How does that work, AK, exactly? How does that Metro thing work? And like, it's not like TweetDeck, right? I mean, TweetDeck allows you to have different columns for different hashtags. So I've got one for ET4 Buddy, ET4 Online, TVSZ, and so on.
It kind of looks like TweetDeck, but I like the visual language that they use, the UI, a little better than TweetDeck.
Do you have it on your computer now? Can you screen share it?
Let's have a look. How do I screen share on this?
It's on the left-hand side. The second link is green. It says screen share.
Oh, I see.
Can you see that? I've become such a Hangouts expert in these 3 days. Okay,
so
I can see it.
This is what Metro Tweet looks like. This particular column is just the regular stream of people that I follow, mentions, ET409, direct messages, and then I can add additional columns for other hashtags that I follow. And unfortunately, it's been discontinued. So I'm using it until the wheels fall off.
Question
So
before you
again?
you all, the Unconference is sort of starting. Jessie's introducing something or another. There isn't a huge number of people, but they're. I'm just wondering what we want to do at this point. Because I'm currently sitting on
where Gardner is. Do you want to get closer to Jessie and just record we can just record what he's saying? That'd be a nice way to kick off the Unconference.
Yeah, because I'm completely on the other
side. And then when Gardner arrives, we can try to get outside of the room or something.
Or do a session with him.
But if someone with Gardner, if he's staying, that would be cool. That would be cool.
Yeah.
So Laura, I don't know. I want someone. Laura's just sending stuff. I just want to know if someone can help Gardner get here. There's only one person watching us live right now, so go ahead and go closer to Jessie, I think.
Okay, I will go pass my iPad over to somebody, and then it's going to be 2 or 3 trips to get my crap up from one side of the room to the other. So
okay.
I will go pass.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see the room if you can.
Okay, I will.
Switch your camera, maybe.
Not a big deal.
Live right now, and I'm gonna move over, but if.
So So I'm curious about how this
I'm Amy Collier.
will work. Because it seems to be, it's a hybrid event, right? And I thought that it would be just an online.
Hi.
Sorry. Hi.
Guys, would you like some cookies?
Oh, I'm gonna get my apple. Oh. I've got an apple.
Give us some.
I have cookies.
Are the cookies good?
Cookies are, yeah, they're good.
And they're enormous.
There's
plenty of them.
They're massive open online cookies.
Massive open You must enable cookies on your browser.
That's a good one.
Nice.
So that's what they do in Unconferences. Hi, Joyce.
Hi, everyone. Joyce.
Hey,
Is
Kyle
anybody
Johnson.
seeing?
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Kyle. How are you?
Hi. Good. How are you?
We're good. We're waiting for Gardner, but I think we're probably gonna have more fun with you guys. No,
Okay,
I'm
well,
waiting.
yeah.
No, he's gonna be great when he
Gardner-
gets
yeah,
here, but.
Gardner's really kind of boring, I hear, so don't worry about it. Here, I'm gonna pass you on.
Hi, good, Maha.
Hello. How are you?
Hi, good.
I'm really glad I could listen into our last session. That sounded awesome.
You gave a great talk.
Yeah, recorded talk. Driving people crazy. I was just thinking. I just tweeted this out like 10 different ways to be virtually present at a conference. That's what I did this conference.
Right. Let me see if I can find Rebecca and pass you on. Oh, here she is.
right here. I'm now
Oh, okay.
closer. I'm no longer on the other side of the room. I'm still on table to myself.
Andrea. Andrea, are you still there?
Maha. Maha?
Yes, Suzanne. Yes, Suzanne.
I was wondering if you could talk about this Unconference just a little bit, like, because
Okay.
it's a hybrid session, like how will it work for virtual participants?
So I've never actually managed to do a virtual Unconference before. This is the first time. Last year it didn't work out very well. And just the idea of it is just that people propose sessions, and then we decide which sessions we want to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And we just talk about them, whether we do something like this hangout for the virtual people, obviously,
Hyperlinks.
because people over there are sitting on tables, or we join a table there, or we open a Google document and we start working on it.
Okay.
I actually haven't had a chance to look at the different sessions people have planned. I think Jessie might be talking to Rebecca about that now.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have something particular in mind?
I proposed one session, so I have that in mind. It's about the technology of emergence, so I'm curious to dive into that because I don't think I got a full understanding of it after Gardner's talk. So it will be really interesting to talk about that. Really understand what it is and how is it different from emerging technologies. I have some questions on the Google document also.
I'm going to.
So it would be really good if Gardner actually gets here, and then you can actually ask him directly, because that's the topic that you proposed, right?
Yeah,
For the Unconference. That would help a little bit. I mean, I kind of think I know what he meant, but I didn't do thought vectors, and I can't speak for him.
Mm-hmm.
But I do know that, so I'll just start sharing this. I don't know, there's a little bit of noise around me. The idea of just designing a curriculum that isn't preset in terms of outcomes and topics and all that. Kind of like an Unconference.
You know what I'll
where
do
you go to
is
the conference and it's not.
put this where they can hear you, and then
They'll probably be able to hear me if they're through the...
I
Is
don't
this
know if
Jessie?
anybody's on that.
Are you talking to Jessie?
Yes, I'm talking to Jessie. We're trying to figure out how you guys hear what he's saying because he's about to start. Oh, Gardner.
If you just point your laptop or whatever towards him, Rebecca, if you point your laptop so that he's as Rebecca, if you point whatever device, Gardner's here. Hey, Gardner.
So I guess the question for the day right now is: do we go into another room, or do they start, or how are we going to do this?
Let
We'll
Jessie
see.
and Gardner discuss that.
If you can't hear me, I'll hold that in my hand.
Okay. So we're going to launch the Unconference. I'm going to pass the iPad to Jessie.
To Jessie, and then we'll have Gardner. Gardner, are you here for a while? Can we do that? Okay.
Yeah, I'm here for a little bit.
Okay,
Sure.
perfect. Because we were just thinking we would do is
I'm gonna do a little
one of the first breakout sessions. We'll just do the interview during the breakout sessions.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
And because they've got some questions for you.
Oh, okay.
Which is perfect. I think I want to
And hi, it's good to meet you. You're
I'm Rebecca.
Rebecca.
Yes.
Okay, I really wanted intro music, so she got me my wish, my birthday
I did not know
wish.
that there was live music.
Nowhere near my birthday. Thank you for that. She also taught me to play ukulele 2 nights ago, and I, like literally 15 minutes. Anyone wants to learn how to play ukulele? We're planning something called Mukulele. Mukulele. So if you'd like to join us for Mukulele, we will be announcing that sometime very soon. So let me just welcome you to the Unconference, and let me check just to be sure that Maha can hear me.
I can hear you, but come a bit closer. I'll hear you better if you're a little bit closer.
Okay, I'm going to stand right here. And now, can you hear me better? She can hear me better. It's funny the way that the actual voice travels into that thing in a way that the loudspeaker doesn't. Like the electronic voice, it just doesn't get inside of there. So, hi, I'm Jessie Stahma, and let me just introduce myself, but mostly this is about you and not about me. And we're going to get away from talking about me as quickly as we possibly can, but I'll just tell you who I am. I'm Jessie Stahma, and I am an assistant professor at University of Wisconsin-Madison, and I'm also the director of Hybrid Pedagogy, a digital journal of learning, teaching, and technology. And I actually was volunteered to run the Unconference. I did not volunteer myself. I actually believe it might have been Maha who volunteered me. It may not have been, but it was someone who volunteered me, and I agreed, but I'm very, very angry about that. So you guys, you're going to have to work with me. It's going to take a while to have my spirits and my moods lifted. So what we're going to do right now is, if you go to the web, and hopefully you have a device of some kind, because device is important today, and I'll tell you why in a second. But if you go to the web, there is, every time I turn my head.
I tweeted the link too, so it's right on the
so we got
Unconference Twitter.
On the Unconference Twitter, which the hashtag is hashtag #UNET4online. You can also use hashtag ET4online, but since the conference is kind of over and we're basically it, feel free to just use #UNET4online. So there's 2 websites up on the screen behind me in mere seconds, and the web addresses are bit.ly/UNET4online hub, which is a Canvas course that basically has all the Google documents already loaded that we're going to be using today. And then the other address is bit.ly/UNET4topics, which is the Google Doc that you see up on the screen. Inside these documents as much as possible, and inside the various Google documents that are listed on the Canvas shell. That would be really great, because the first rule of this Unconference, and there's only a couple rules of an Unconference, and the first rule is that if you're not inside of one of these Google Docs, you're not at the Unconference. And the reason why that is one of the rules, so everyone's now looking around for their devices. Oh no, I forgot my device. The reason for that is because we're trying to have this Unconference be as hybrid as it can possibly be. So the sense is, if you're not inside of one of these Google Docs, once you're working in a session with your collaborators in the room, you're in a sense not letting the virtual participants have access to the conversation that you're having. We're not going to be having live synchronous video chats inside of these sessions. Instead, the Google Doc is going to be the thing that connects the virtual participants and the on-ground participants. Of course, the Twitter hashtag can also do that. The 2 things you're going to be doing once we break into sessions is making sure that you're tweeting on the hashtag and making sure that that not just one person reporting inside of the Google Doc. It isn't about taking notes. It's about actually having action happening inside of that Google Doc that's bridging the people that are in the room and the people that are online joining in. So the other rule of the Unconference is what has been called the rule of 2 feet. And I realize that I don't like the idea of the rule of 2 feet because it seems very ableist to me, so I'm changing it to the rule of agency, which is that throughout the Unconference, if you're sitting at a table and the conversation is not the conversation that you want to be having, we're all at the end of a long conference, and our brains are tired, and this should not be the point in the conference where you're forcing your brain to wrap around something that you're just not in it. So, rule of 2 feet, which I'm now recoining as the rule of agency, means that if you're sitting in a conversation and the conversation is not useful or productive to you, get up, move to a different session. The sessions will all be in this room, kind of spread out across the room, so you will be able to see other people. You'll also be able to jump into Google Docs. So for example, if I was sitting in one session, I was just like, gosh, I really don't like any of these people I'm sitting with. I would jump into the Google Docs and sort of peer at what's happening inside of the other Google Docs to get a sense for what their conversation. Of course, we can also overhear them because we're in the room with them. But peer inside the Google Docs and say, wow, not only are they talking about more interesting things, but I like all those people better. And so then you get up and leave. Now, I really hope that nobody now looks when anyone gets up and says, oh, that person doesn't like us. No, that's not what it's about. The rule of agency is such that essentially you hop up and you move, and nobody begrudges anyone else. So those are the only rules. And very shortly, I'm going to kind of take a back seat, and I'm going to start having us talk about essentially what we want to talk about today. I have no agenda. My only agenda is to essentially be an MC and to help all of us figure out what we want to talk about, what we want to accomplish. So are there questions about the rules as I've laid them out? I feel like I need the Jeopardy music. I heard that actually. Someone used that at one of the sessions.
How do we know which Google Doc is for which?
There is only, at this point, there's only one Google Doc that we're using. And you should jump in. So at this point, all you need to know is on ET4 topics. But before we break into sessions, I'll tell you where else you might go. Yes?
Some portions of the Canvas course are behind the login.
Yes, you don't need them. Don't worry about it. Log in if you want, don't if you don't. Essentially, they're there if you need them, but the Canvas course is open to the web, so the only thing you're not getting access to is the collaborations feature, the discussion feature. There's a bit of discussion going on there, but most of the proposals have happened right in this document. So you're not missing anything if you don't log in. We're not selling your data to Canvas. Other questions? Okay, so the question that the thing that we're going to do now is talk about what we're going to talk about. And so if you look at the, essentially the other, Sean will bring up the other document that I have, the other page, which is in your other tab. And we have a little bit of a schedule here. Here's essentially what we're going to be doing. From 1:15 to 1:45, I'm giving an intro. Hey, that's the part I just did. And then we're going to be planning. And essentially what we're going to do is decide what our sessions are. From 1:45 to 2:35, we're going to have our first session. And then we are going to have a break. And then we're going to essentially reconvene and talk about, well, essentially return to our planning document, our topic list, and see if we want to make some revisions. And then we're going to hop into other sessions. Finally, we're going to come back at the end to debrief and figure out what we want to do, what we want to take away from this, what are the burning questions that we want to take to the world with us. A session, what a session can be. A session can be a discussion. It can just be sitting around with people who are interested in talking about something, a burning question. A session can also be a collaboration, a group of people that want to write a 50-minute flash white paper about hybrid unconferences. Bam, a session. Jump in, spend 50 minutes, co-author something in those 50 minutes. Another option would be to, you could do something like make a really quick viral video. I do this great thing with my students where I pass out cameras and I say, take this camera and script, shoot, edit, upload, and promote a viral video. So the thing is, if we can think about two possible things we might do in these sessions. One is have a conversation. The other is make something, build something, do something. So essentially what we're going to do now is we're just going to brainstorm what our topics are. Sean, my fabulous co-host here, Vanna for the day, is Sean Michael Morris, and he's going to be taking some notes behind me, essentially as we have ideas for the Unconference. Question?
Could you turn the volume on your mic down just a little bit?
Okay.
Is that possible?
Is it breaking your ears? It's kind of very weird to me too, because every time I turn my head, I'm hearing myself in strange ways. No, actually. Yeah. Okay. Here, I think I can do this.
It's all right. I don't want to mess anything up.
Okay, I'm going to do this. I'm very loud. I actually think you can probably all still hear me in the back. Yes, they can hear me, and I know they can hear me just as well, and this isn't being recorded, so I feel that is much, much better. So what we're going to do is we're going to brainstorm. So what I need is I'm going to start by having us talk about the proposals that have already been made in advance of this session. Some of you have jumped into this Google Doc and have already proposed potential topics for discussion. So why don't we start by looking at those, and what I'll do is we'll kind of summarize them, and if the person who proposed it is in the room, that person can tell us what they were after with that topic. If they're not in the room, well, we'll tackle the fact that they're not in the room and put something in this document, because really, why did they do that? So let's start by scrolling down to the first one, which is at this morning's session, Gardner talked about the creation that takes place in a garage. So I thought interesting, we should have an EdTech garage to share the innovative projects that we are all creating. Domain of one's own, e-portfolios, badging, blended learning. So I registered edtechgarage.com, set up a quick WordPress site. Wow, wait, who did that? Okay, and installed feed WordPress as a starting point for aggregating the projects we're all working on. What should this be? How should it work? The site is live and you can create the site now. So this seems to me it's both a discussion, but it's also literally 50 minutes building stuff. The one thing that can happen is if people get really involved in that project and they just want to propose during session 2, they just continue their work on that. Totally free game. You want to add anything about this one?
It's live. It's hosted up on Brax right now. We could look at it as a model similar to how Domain of One's Own is run, creating subdomains off of it to highlight your own garage or just aggregate blogs and content that people are building. Just thought it was
Folks, we can't see you.
Here, why don't you go ahead and do that?
Okay, I'm double passing the iPad around.
Let's go to the next one. So I'm just going to go through these pretty quickly, and then we'll talk about them and see what people's interests are, and then we'll propose some more, put these in a list, and then ultimately what we'll do is vote on which sessions we're most interested in. So the next one is Gardner Campbell has given a plenary talk on the technology of emergence within the context of thought vectors.net. The discussion will be a space to process the ideas in the talk and critically analyze the concept of emergence in ET4 Online. Please feel free to rephrase this description. I did not rephrase. Questions. What is emergent technology? What is technology of emergence? Concrete examples. What have we seen on this conference so far? Is the person who proposed that here with us?
Yes.
I think she's virtual.
Yes, she's here. Suzanne is right here.
Yeah, but I don't really have things to add.
Does she have something to add?
Not yet.
No. Okay. Okay, let's go to the next one. Fork this book, Chris Schaffer, who I did see come in. He says participants will use GitHub to fork an open source textbook and publish their own derivative in various higher ed settings. What new modes of intellectual, social, even political interaction does the digital make possible for the books we write and read and hack? What happens when a student forks the textbook and makes their own edits? What if that were the first lesson each semester? So again, nice discussion, also a little bit of hands-on playing with GitHub. One of the things about any of these sessions is don't avoid that one if you don't know what GitHub is all about. There will likely be someone like Chris in that session who can walk you through GitHub. There aren't official session leaders, although the person who proposed the discussion can at least throw the questions out on the table. Chris, do you want to say anything more about that one? With your mouth full. So, okay, we summarized that one good. Next one, Martian codicology. Also, Chris, he says the idea behind the Martian codicology game is to pretend you're an interstellar visitor to Earth. You understand books as a concept, one with residence in your own planetary culture, but you don't know a lot about the kinds of books we have here on this one. What would such a book think about? What would such a person think about the books we've made, about the socioeconomic and regulatory structures that have accreted around them, about libraries? What I'm really wondering is what that word accrete means. Who can be an author? Who are her readers? Who gets paid? Who pays? For what and how? Anything to add about that one?
Just a little bit. This is a pun on Martian musicology, which is something we talk about amongst music scholars. Could you look at a bunch of music and figure out the rules, the style? Could you watch an American watch a cricket game? Does it look completely unintelligible like it does to me, which is what baseball and hockey look like to some others that I know? Or could you actually sit down and figure out the rules and leave appreciation for it? And the way musicologists have put this often is that we would often emphasize different things than the rules or the coaches or the players would in those games. So what kind of new things can we discover when we look at it from outside?
Cool. Movers and shakers. There are lots of folks who are responsible for facilitating adult learning in higher ed as well as in or 12 schools. I'll give an example, though I have not been personally to one of their conferences, the Learn Zillion Dream Team. For the sake of not losing my voice, this was a little longer paragraph, so I'm not going to read that one. Is the person who's in here want to elaborate on this one a little bit? He is not a mover and a shaker then. Oh, he's online. Oh, yes. Oh, he's actually the one that we were chatting with. Update. I've got a personal interest in teacher professional development and would love to identify school districts that fall into the category of movers and shakers in professional learning, but am flexible. Questions to consider. Who are some of the individuals and organizations that are facilitating the most effective learning engagements for adult learners? What makes their learning engagement so effective? Which of their resources are available publicly? Which elements that we identified would folks like to investigate more deeply after this Unconference? That actually seems like a really great create a resource inside of that Google document for people that is useful to us and people outside. So now what I want to do is I want to open it up to other proposals. I'm doing this because we want to jump into the discussions. Give me a topic and a one-sentence pitch about what the deal with the topic is, and Sean will be taking notes.
Well, I'm starting to drop it in there, but it's Jess and I both did a little bit around UX methods for learning design and development. And this would be the perfect time to do a little bit more on that. Perhaps even just start by curating some resources and start to pull it all together in one place.
Cool. Other ideas? Burning questions, debates. There you go. Needed that.
Google.
22 seconds.
Hey, I want to talk.
Oh, sorry, Maha wants to say something. It works best if you put it this way. It amplifies the voice.
Okay, go for it, Maha.
Okay. Yes. So I'm going to have to leave in a short while, but I was wondering if anybody's interested in discussing the ET4 Buddy program and like taking notes in a Google document for how they think conferences can become more hybrid, or, I mean, not necessarily just the ET4 Buddy program, but anything like it. If anybody's interested in discussing that and keeping the notes in a Google document, Rebecca and I are going to try to write something up about it and share that soon. Possibly on hybrid pedagogy, possibly somewhere else.
Great. I like that topic also. I like the expanded idea of just how does one have virtual attendance at an unconference, or at a conference rather, and also how can we connect virtual attendance. I know I've attended many conferences just by showing up on a hashtag and thinking about what we can do to make people who just show up on the hashtag feel more like they're inside the event. Thanks, Maha. Other ideas? I have another idea, which is that we talk about unconferences. Essentially, we talk about the shape of conferences and think about what happened at this conference that was particularly effective and how we can reshape conferences, how we can essentially have a meta-level discussion about the conference itself and about the unconference as a forum. Other ideas?
I would add to that. I like that idea. And thinking about the teacher tank and a place where people present ideas in development, how we can use conference in our physical presence to connect around ideas in development.
Do we think that's the same subject, or is it a different one? It seems like it could potentially combine with that one, but we might also separate it out a little bit as being about sort of connections across, I'm seeing sort of a connections across binaries, sort of different questions. Entrepreneurs connecting with academics, connecting with students, connecting with, in a way a conference can kind of bridge those. So if you can, as we're doing this, just kind of also take the titles of the ones that are down below and cut and paste them so that this is a list so that everyone can just vote with a little hashtag next to them. Other ideas? I think Amy has an idea about intimacy or following up on the, do you have an idea following up on the messy learning? I remember there was a subject at the end that we said, oh, wouldn't that be a great topic for the conference? What was that? Well, so the one that I kind of remembered was essentially the idea about how we can make, we were talking about language and the kind of boxes that we put in anything and how we can move towards talking about our disciplines and our work in a more humane way. So essentially thinking about the language that we use around our work and the way that that language can exclude or can include, and the way that we can start to find different language to create a space of more intimacy within I think, our professional, our scholarly, and our pedagogical work.
Good.
Okay, so there's another one.
Amy, that was awesome.
I think what Amy is saying.
Stand next to people and then come up with an idea and a trivia.
Rebecca? Rebecca,
Yeah.
can you hear me?
Yep.
A lot of the virtual people here need to leave soon and they want to meet Gardner, so can we step out and talk to Gardner while they start the Unconference and then you can walk back in later?
We will vote. We're going to move towards voting, so go ahead and just do that, I think, during the voting.
Okay, during the voting? Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll just pop in the hall.
Is this a referendum on Gardner?
In the other room, because we'll be doing it in the Google Doc.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, you can bring your computer.
So what we're essentially going to do is, yes. Yes.
So
Right,
what
so
are
we're
we
just
doing?
going to go out in the hall.
Okay, I'll follow you.
Oh, I need to make sure I bring the, sorry, 2 secs. I need to make sure my internet's coming with me. I need to figure it, there it is.
I need to make sure my internet is coming with me. That's really funny.
Well, I'm connected via MiFi, and if I walk too far away from it, my signal will go down.
Yeah, I know.
MiFi,
I know.
5G,
That's the story. That's been the story of this these past few days.
Yeah. Okay, here we go.
Yes.
We've got a table right
Suzanne, so we were doing this so Suzanne and Gardner don't feel too anxious if the proposal where she's proposing to talk what he talked about, neither one of them need to be anxious about that. So yeah, inside there they're trying to decide the fate of Suzanne and Gardner.
Hang on. No, I didn't. Okay, good. We're good.
So hi Gardner.
Hi.
It's so cool to meet you.
Hey.
Everybody here is dying to meet you, so I'll give everybody a chance to introduce themselves to you very quickly, and then they can start asking you questions.
I heard.
Suzanne, do you want to go first?
Hi, Dr. C. If you don't mind, I'll just call you Dr. C because I like that.
Oh no, that's fine.
Yeah. Well, I'm Suzanne. You probably know me from the email exchanges. You know, I'm the one who's doing research and thought practice, so I'm really excited to meet with you here.
Oh, it's very good to meet you too.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm also excited about the research, but we can talk about that some other time.
Okay. No, that's great.
Okay,
And I've been mispronouncing your name this whole time. I keep calling you Susan with a Z, but you say Suzanne.
Oh yeah, it's Suzanne. Suzanne.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Yeah. Nice to meet you. Yeah.
We also have AK and Debbie. AK has to go soon because of some emergency at work, so I'll let him introduce himself first, and then Debbie.
Hi there, it's nice to meet you. More than Twitter. I am AK. I'm from UMass Boston. It's great to see you live on the Hangout.
Well, it's great to be here. It's good to meet you.
Hi, I'm Debbie Lloyd. I'm from Eastern Kentucky University in Richmond, Kentucky. And so this is my first OLC conference. and I'm attending virtually, so I really enjoyed it. It was very nice to meet you.
Well, it's very good to meet you too. Who has the emergency? AK?
That's me.
Okay, well, probably something has caught fire back at VCU right now, but I have the fire in my pocket right here, and I'm not going to look at it yet. But it is one of those things, and I'm just happy to have a chance to say hello to everyone. And it's my first real-time conversation with any of you. I guess even Suzanne, I don't think we've had a hangout before, have we? And Maha, you're such a quick tweeter, which I mean is a great compliment. That when the latency goes down, it feels almost real time, but it's not quite the same as real time in this mediated environment. So it's good to have this opportunity.
So I was just saying that this has been, like, what just happened right in the past 20 minutes is exactly what technologies of emergence are. we were originally planning to start out with you and then go on to the Unconference, but then, it just worked out that we started with the Unconference and then having you here. But the number of viewers has gone up ever since I tweeted that you're on right now. So clearly you're being voted up.
Unfortunately, like with Periscope, we can actually see the hearts or whatever as you get voted up on Hangouts on Air. We don't have that view on this end.
I'm so bummed I can't see the hearts. I mean, I don't know what to make of this, but I will believe you, Maha.
Yeah, double the number of viewers. Double the number of viewers. This is, I think, the highest number of viewers we've had ever on ET4.
That's two. Maha, how many viewers do we have? We had one, I think.
Well, there were six. No, there were six. There were six. That's the highest number we've had live. Yeah. So, Suzanne, you want to ask Gardner a question, right?
Well, not really. It was a proposal for the Unconference. But yeah, so after your talk, I was thinking about the difference between, the concept of emergent technologies and the technology of emergence. And I don't think I fully understand the concept, so I'm definitely, I will go back to your talk and try to understand it more. But I get the idea that it's all about meaning making, right, with technology. So that's what I understood from the technology of emergence. Like, we need to be looking at how students make meaning of their experience, I guess. Anyway, I simplified it too much probably, but it's an interesting concept, and I'd like to think about it more.
Yeah, I think about these technologies of emergence as being aligned with meaning making and stimulating meaning making.
Mm-hmm.
There was a whole middle part in the presentation that I had to cut out because, I mean, how many slides can we stand?
Mm-hmm.
Second prize is 2 plenaries by Gardner. But the whole idea of emergence comes out of, at least part of it comes out of the study of complexity. And complexity is very interesting to me because there are relatively simple ways to talk about the building blocks. The key then is the number of combinations of the building blocks and the environments in which they're permitted to come together. And so the number of connections start to rise. It becomes an exponential function. And I'm paraphrasing it very badly. But I would. So there are 2 books that are really important for me along these lines. One is A Study of Emergence by Stephen Johnson, who really is, for me, a philosopher of emergence. Just about everything he's written is concerned in some way with this phenomenon. And the one that a lot of people might know is called Where Good Ideas Come From, where he talks about the adjacent possible when 2 things are brought into contact in a way that suddenly reveals the possibility of a connection that maybe hadn't been there before. Mm-hmm. And he also has this wonderful phrase, I don't think he made it up, but he uses it to great effect, called the slow hunch. And that's another part of the environment that I think is worth stressing. It actually came out in a talk I did a while back, and I keep forgetting to bring it up again, but one of the things about technologies of emergence is that there are kind of multiple time streams going on. There's this very near real-time connectedness that can happen, and then there are connections that can emerge over a very long span of time. Yeah, photobomb. Good. Is that Laura?
Yeah.
Hey, all right. Okay. Yeah, we need. Hey, that's the cameo.
AKA, oh yeah, hello friends. Hi.
Thank you, Laura. It was all part of the act. It was all planned. But like over a long period of time, people will keep coming back and seeing more kinds of connections. So anyway, Where Good Ideas Come From is a great book along these lines, but all of Johnson's books are mining this kind of concept. And the other one that I really like a lot is by actually a reporter out of Washington, D.C., who wrote a great book on J.C.R. Licklider. But it's another book he wrote that's just called Complexity, and it talks about the science of complexity and how emergent phenomena are related to this idea of complexity. Okay, so I know that person. Hello.
Michelle just walked by
That's
and took
right.
a picture of us.
Yeah, now I've had Michelle take a picture of me, and that's on my bucket list, because if Gardner's at a conference and Michelle is not going to take a picture, then the tree made no sound. But anyway, I get really interested in how many of our educational structures seemed almost anti-complexity, almost to deny the very thing that we know works so well in our own brains. Well, in other people's brains, who knows how well they work in mine. But I guess that's another little bit. I mean, I'm sorry, I like to think and talk about this, but I don't know if that gets at some of your questions, Suzanne, or...
Yeah, I think so. So you're actually talking about technologies that allow for this complexity, yeah, so I think I understand it better now. I thought you were talking about something very conceptually, like I didn't have any technologies in mind when you were talking, but now I think I have some concrete examples, like the web, the World Wide Web would be one example, I guess. Mm-hmm.
Well, and the web is a great example because one of the fundamental building blocks in its construction was a decision that you would not have to have someone's permission to link to their document. And it's a very small decision, but it had enormous ramifications, since you don't have to get their permission, since you can link freely, incoming and outgoing, then structures of association can emerge that no one's really planned or decided on. But you can see them because, as different as we all are, there are also certain cognitive pathways that we tend to have in common. And out of that, you see this space for shared meaning making, which is really what I think concept space is. So, no, your question's right on, and I think the web is one of the great examples of a technology of emergence.
Thank you. I think so far during the conference, as a virtual participant, I didn't see many examples of what you just described. It's mostly about, my understanding is that the emergent technology at this conference is mostly about just the technology piece, and sometimes something like voice thread, without going deeper into the meaning of these technologies. But yeah, thank you very much.
No, you're welcome, and you pointed out something that I think is very interesting. So many of these technologies, whether it's VoiceThread or whether it's the drones I've refused to talk about, although I'm very interested in them, they could be put to use as a technology of emergence, but only if you begin to think about them in the context of meaning making. Otherwise, we get into this conversation about tools that I don't really enjoy very much, because, to say, well, a drone is a tool makes it sound as if using the drone doesn't change you, but of course it does. We shape our tools and then our tools shape us. And most anthropologists understand that culture is something that doesn't just aggregate our experience, but it shapes it as well. That quote that I put up today about culture as a thinking system is also something that Jerome Bruner's worked on a lot. And so I guess my big question is, and maybe I would love to hear what you all think about this, a lot of this seems pretty basic to me, and I don't feel like it's any great stretch to think about this in terms of education, but we seem to have a hard time doing that. So I'm curious, I mean, why is this phenomenon of emergence not talked about more in terms of the way we think about learning or what's in our environments? Thoughts?
Well, I was really happy that you mentioned Lawrence Stenhouse in your talk, because that's curriculum theory from the 1970s, I think. But this process-oriented curriculum, where you focus on the process of learning and teaching between the students and teachers rather than the outcomes and the product, has been around, the concept has been around for a while, but in general it hasn't been adopted in education. And I think it's partly because of this whole neoliberal drive towards external accreditation and measurement and all that, which is very interesting because this is the topic of RISO 15 this week. What counts? And RISO 15 is a very emergent type of MOOC. But I'm happy to listen to what other people have to say as well. But I just wanted to mention that the Lawrence Stenhouse is not even related to technology at all. But if you start thinking about curriculum and education in that way, then the way you adapt and use technologies will be based on that framework or philosophy of thinking. But that philosophy isn't the dominant philosophy in our institutions. And just one thing is just that I always admire someone like Gardner who's at a very high power position in your organization, but you still think like us, which I don't know how many people in the world get into that kind of position and still thinks this way. So, well, Debbie, I think you wanted to say something. Go on, Gardner.
It was an accident. Whatever happens to me is an accident.
I was just going to say, as an instructional designer, I try to talk to my faculty about using tools not for the purpose of using technology, but because the tool is, like you said, going to be meaning-making for the students. Like, what's the purpose of the tool? Is it actually going to allow them to get something more out of the assessment than, a quiz or a paper? And I think what I struggle with is dealing with faculty who are new to online teaching, because I specifically work with online courses, and having them think about the way they teach in a different way than the way they've thought about it for the past 25 years. And I don't want to tell them a lot of theory or anything like that. It seems like it sort of puts up a wall, and so I try to talk to them more about the practical applications, about how the students can really learn from using different technologies in a way, whether it's like through a project-based learning or having them choose a different medium from themselves, and that way they're making meaning through the tool that they choose. But there's a lot of resistance.
Yeah, I started out, I guess, in 2003, working as I had been kind of the lead faculty member in the Teaching and Learning Technology Advisory Group, and we got a new administrator in who wanted some faculty credibility and heft in his work with teaching and learning. He was not himself a faculty member, so he invited me to step forward into an administrative role. That's really how it happened. And so now, I was in the position of doing just what you're saying, trying to encourage my colleagues, some of whom were resistant, some of whom were just kind of passive about things. They would come up with things that didn't really make sense to me, like, well, we have to do this because we have to be where the kids are. Well, I mean, sort of we do, but sort of we don't. And I would never say adopt any of these technologies just because they're the flavor of the month. In fact, I think that's been kind of a disaster for K through 12 in a lot of ways. But I did try to find ways to hook in to what I thought of as the best parts of faculty culture. So I actually did start bringing in theory, but not ed theory so much, although I've started to do that now too. But I found in some of the early writings about the digital age a lot of very emancipatory, liberatory kinds of aspirations, and people thinking in ways that were just really closely aligned with some of the more progressive ideas about education that I'd always been fascinated by. And it was very interesting because these were engineers, they were media theorists, they were comic book artists in some cases, although that came a little later with Scott McCloud. But what they all had in common was that they were working with big questions in ways that were kind of oblique and unusual. And so I started up this thing called the New Media Faculty Staff Development Seminar, which I haven't done for a couple of years, but I'm going to be starting up again in the fall. And we used some essays from the New Media Reader, and I was pretty careful about it because I didn't want to get into a typical academic critique session where we start talking about, whether X's approach was better than Y's and all the rest. I just really wanted to kind of bask in the ideas and look at some of the really unusual language about emancipation that people were using, and think about it and be hospitable to it, not just accept it, but to give it its due. And that started working, and it was very interesting because, and I was careful about, I didn't want any faculty members in the room who would just suck the oxygen out of the room, because then it's conversation stops. But there were folks who were really inquiring and really interested in thinking about these things, and they weren't all early adopters. Sometimes it's better if you're not. And I found that faculty became engaged with a layer of ideas about all of these practices and these technologies that they didn't realize was there. And so it became, I don't know, like it was a seminar. We planted seeds, and it was, whatever they adopted, whether they wanted to use Twitter or VoiceThread or blogs or whatever, they would do it with certain principles in mind. And I really do think that those principles are closely linked, though there was no way to talk about it in the 50s and 60s, with these ideas of emergence. So, but I feel your pain. I mean, it's very, very difficult to make these digital technologies into something that will have a conceptual richness for faculty, because they're used to viewing them in so instrumental a way. And so I just keep working away at that.
Thanks.
Can I just say something about that? I think I can't remember who said this, but somebody said, change in educational practice requires change in educational culture, and that is so difficult to achieve, right? And maybe, there's no one way to define it, of course. But I think, I think as you mentioned, like, we need to look at the big picture, the possibilities, and just have people get excited about things. And this is, I think, something that Thought Vectors is doing. Your course, the course VCU had in summer. It got me excited about the web again. So I think we need to have that spark in people, have them excited about the technologies they use, look at the possibilities, have some idealistic thoughts, and be optimistic about the future and so on.
Couldn't agree more.
Okay, folks, I actually need to leave in about 2 or 3 minutes, but I wanted to give anyone else a chance if anybody wants to ask or say anything else before we go. And then anybody else at the who wants to participate in the Unconference can just, there are people with laptops inside the room, and they can just talk to someone and ask them to start a hangout with them if they want. But AK and Debbie, do you want to add anything before we go?
One quick thought. Changing educational culture, I think we also need to factor in our students, not just our administrators and our faculty. One of the use cases that have come up this semester a few times is students themselves refusing to change the educational culture they want to be lectured at, even though they don't learn as much from lecture. That's what they expect, and they really push back when they don't get what they expect. So I think brainstorming in how to get students to change their own perceptions of what education is and what it could be is a key thing.
No, absolutely. And I will say just very quickly, I know you have to go, Maha, that we've got a project coming up in the fall at VCU. It'll be happening while the Thought Vectors course is going, but it's a different kind of a thing. It's a one-credit pass-fail course, fully online, called the Great VCU Bike Race Book. And the idea is that we've got a UCI World Championship bicycling race that's coming to Richmond. And classes are canceled that week because of the logistics of getting people in and out of the campus itself. But what we're doing is a set of fully online courses, each one credit, pass-fail, very low threshold. I mean, you'd have to kind of try to fail, a reduced tuition price, but with right now 25 different sections, each led by a different faculty member, looking at the event and interacting with the event through various disciplinary lenses. All of that will be online. All of that will be visible. All of it will be published and aggregated on the open web. And it gives us another shot, I think, for all of us in the educational environment, certainly everyone at VCU, to think about what would it be like if we could actually reveal the life of the university in an interesting and dynamic and compelling way? Things will always need to happen in private at times, zones for reflection and contemplation. But how cool is it going to be to have a course structured around the archaeology of bike races, a psychology course structured around motivation, a nursing course structured around bicycling and health, a gender and women's studies course that's going to be structured around various aspects of gender in athletic competitions and in bicycling, a film and bicycling course, and all of them up on the open web. My sense is that students will begin to see the work they're doing as being something more than just course by course. And I'm hoping that the faculty will as well, because suddenly they're all going to be doing this out there in front of each other and learning how to do it in some faculty development workshops this spring. So I'm really excited about this.
So fun.
Yeah,
that sounds like so much fun.
Yeah, it's going to be. I mean, lots of points of failure that could still happen, knock on wood, but it could be just amazing. And there's, if you go to the vcu.edu homepage, we've got university relations with a web story about the bike race. And for me, the story is terrific. The trailer that some of my OutLab folks did is terrific. But best of all is a little kind of a sidebar at the end where the person who put the web story together was asking faculty, what inspired you to do this course? And it's really great. It's a special topics course. It doesn't have to go before a committee. It doesn't have to do anything other than be approved by me and my colleague, the Vice Provost for Community Engagement. So people have come up with just some extraordinary ways of thinking about what would you do that's academic and purposeful and fun and engaging on the open web, fully online, with this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So I'm really kind of over the moon about this. It's the same set of principles with even more emergence thrown in, because who knows what will happen? I don't, but it should be cool.
Can students enroll in more than one section?
That's an excellent question. Because we're awarding a credit for it, we have to make the accompanying argument that if you take this course, it's going to be the only thing you can do during that week. The idea being that if we said take 2 or 3, it would send the message that we weren't looking for full commitment to any of it. So we decided no, just 1 per customer. It is a reduced, the tuition for it is $50. You have to be a VCU to do it, but I don't know, Enroll as a non-degree seeking student, $50, cheap thrills, it's cool. But we thought about that, and it was actually me in the end. I decided that we would have a hard time saying, sure, you can earn 3 credits in 1 week by doing 10 hours of work, for each of these courses. That it just didn't add up as all in as we wanted it to be. So stay tuned.
Okay.
Awesome. That sounds very exciting.
I'm sorry, I have to actually end this really abruptly. I really have to go put my daughter to bed.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Gardner, for joining us for this last session. Thank you, Suzanne, Debbie, and AK. And thank you, Rebecca, for the whole conference.
Excellent. And thank you, Maha. You've done an excellent job. This has been, ET for Buddy has been a lot of fun.
Great to talk to you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you. And of course, anybody else can start a hangout just like this one if they want to. We had 8 viewers and at some point 9 viewers. This was the So anybody, if anybody has a good internet connection at the Unconference, they can start a hangout on their laptop and invite people into it on whatever topic they're talking about. Okay, thank you, everybody. Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Have a safe flight back home.
Thanks.
Bye. Enjoy the rest of the Unconference. Bye-bye.
3, 2, 1.
And